If I get comments during and after the event saying this was great, or I met my next business partner, or I met somebody that I'm going to have on my show, or literally I met my new best friend, like that's huge for us. So the emails, the comments saying because of your show, I was able to start or grow or meet somebody, like that's huge for us, right? I mean, obviously we want to make money, but that's what keeps me going. And for those that don't know, we usually have 3 podcast festivals a year, and we do it all over the U.S.
It all begins by understanding the mind.
I want to be happy now. I don't care about the future. I want to be happy right now.
You are not alone. You are never, ever, ever alone in this.
It's helped my voice grow and given me freedom to be creative on my own.
I'm Christina Barcy. Welcome to Be Bold, Begin, a podcast dedicated to you, the creative, the healer, and the innovator. The topics and conversations we have here are designed to help you discover what might be getting in your way and offer you tools, techniques, and guidance to move through them.
I live in the imposter's body more than I live in my own body. I don't have to feel like I don't deserve this.
This is where creativity and healing intersect.
If you decide to be bold and begin, you have the opportunity to feel humbled and empowered. I totally believe that.
I'm a certified Kaizen Muse creativity coach, a certified Reiki energy healer, and an entrepreneur, artist, and presenter. I will share with you my experiences, my proven tools and techniques that helped me and my clients and loved ones shift and expand in the areas they most desired. This is a gentle and open space where you will hear how others are being bold to encourage you to begin your own journey or expand the one you're on. This is Be Bold Begin. My guest this week, Ever Gonzalez, the founder of Outlier HQ, has a few things figured out. And in this episode, we approach the bold basics of community building in our casual, over coffee style chat. We also discuss how and when to monetize, how to empower your community through engagement, the value of a strong email list, where to connect virtually, and our thoughts on social media and the new Clubhouse trend. We also chat a bit about getting started and the need to have and embrace a process. I think you'll enjoy this one. So we're back now just to go a little deeper into the nitty-gritty of venturing out on your own. We're back with Ever Gonzalez. Thank you for being here once more and doing this extra deep dive with us.
I'm excited, as always.
Woohoo. Nice. So we talked a lot about community, and I was just telling you a moment ago, for selfish reasons, I definitely want to know more about this too. And I think it's so important, but can you help us understand how to take steps towards community building for someone who is either trying to start a personal brand or some venture for themselves, or someone who's just starting a podcast? How do you kind of get that going, like first steps?
Yeah, I think there are like the generic steps, right? That you can read online saying you needed this and this and this and this. But and there are a lot of successful people that have done that. But I think for me, I need to be excited and passionate about the community that I want to build, and being literally hanging out with those people, whether it's online or in person, in order for it to kind of truly work the way you want it to work. And for me, it's obviously been podcasting and entrepreneurship, but more recently on the podcasting side, I wanted to kind of build a community where I can go and talk to cool people about how to start and grow and do everything with your shows. And so, yeah, I think number one, you have to be passionate about the potential community that you're trying to build, and be, and I hate the way this sounds, but truly be real and authentic about it, right? If I think people are too savvy nowadays and can kind of, they can tell when you're going through the motions or if you're doing it because at the end of the day, you want to sell them something, right? Build a community and then eventually sell them something if you want to. Eventually, try to have them use your services or come to your events, there's nothing wrong with that. But if the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, hey, join my community and I'm trying to sell you this, I think it's the wrong approach.
So how do we know, how do we use a community in the beginning? What do we do with a community? Let's say we're we nailed the how to get people interested. What do we do after that?
Yeah, the thing that has worked for us is we build ambassadors, right? So whether it's you or whoever's starting the community, we'll use obviously my example, right? I wanted to build this podcasting community, and I can do everything I can. I obviously have limited time and resources, but I build other people, or I kind of bring in these ambassadors, people that I know and like, and that are passionate about, in this instance, podcasting, and have them kind of help build the community with answering questions, or just kind of being cheerleaders on the sideline, or providing their own expertise in this community, right? With answering questions, asking questions, being passionate about bringing others in as well. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be huge, right? So you pick your topic and then build ambassadors first, because you're going to need it, especially in the beginning. And as it grows, bigger and bigger, it's I don't know, it feels more like a family and a true community when there are more than one voice, just more than one voice, just kind of talking the entire time.
So how do you get them, what is it that you're engaging them around? Are you starting conversations? Are you asking the ambassador to start conversations, and there's just questions posed, or events that you create, or how does that, what's that look like?
It's all the above. And really the roadmap is pretty simple, right? Talk about what you normally would talk about if you and I were at a coffee shop, right? What are we going to be talking about? If it was me and you at a coffee shop, we'd probably be talking about business. We'd talk about life and stuff, but we'd be talking about... I'd be
having the same conversation
That's exactly right. We'd be talking about business, and we'd be talking about podcasting. So let's bring that kind of intimate conversation and put it on, if it's going to be online, do it online or at our events. And so they're already going to be talking about things that they're interested in. And again, the ambassadors that I've kind of been able to bring in and kind of help with this, some in an official capacity, others in a less official capacity, I just let them do what they would normally do, and it works great. I mean, they already bring in their own strengths to the community, and it continues to build it because of they're usually very smart and very passionate, and a lot of times very charming, right? And that's exactly who we want as ambassadors.
And you're really good at fostering that and giving a lot of freedom to whoever you involve. I've witnessed that over the couple of years that I've known you now, and that's been fun to see, because I think there's a lot of structure often in what you can and can't do, and what the expectations are, and all of this stuff. And it's just a warm waters to kind of hang out in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you've been to one of our events, right, you've been to a couple already, we play it fast and loose, right? I mean, we're not, obviously we want some structure and we want some things that we need to accomplish and stuff, but we just kind of let it go. We have a foundation, and then it's fun watching it kind of go in different directions. And you're right. We'd like to give our speakers and our facilitators the ability to kind of do what they want, right? We like them, we trust them, and so now go. And if you want to do something a little bit different, let's do it. And it's worked well for us. We're not too strict on exactly how we want it to be, right? Again, it's fast and loose, and sometimes, a lot of times it works. There have been times when, it doesn't, but I'm okay with that, just because I feel like we bring so much value to one event that if we have a little bit of a dud or something that, we're swinging for the fences and we strike out, I'm okay with that, because the rest of the programming makes up for it.
Very cool. Looking at the bigger picture. Yeah, that's a great way to measure success, which was actually going to be my next question. How do you measure success when you're it goes well, it works for us? What are you thinking about when you say that? What is working?
If I get comments during and after the event saying this was great, or I met my next business partner, or I met somebody that I'm going to have on my show, or literally I met my new best friend, that's huge for us. So the emails, the comments saying, because of your show, I was able to start or grow or meet somebody, that's huge for us, right? I mean, obviously we want to make money, but that's what keeps me going. And for those that don't know, we usually have 3 podcast festivals a year, and we do it all over the U.S. And I've been able to kind of measure some of our success, because we feel like the Grateful Dead sometimes, because we have people following us from city to city, right? And
that's so cool.
And that's huge, right? Obviously, they're taking time and obviously pre-COVID, right? They're flying and they're staying in a hotel and they're coming to our events because we were able to provide some value, and we have our little group of people that follow us from city to city. And
Wow.
if we weren't doing it right, that wouldn't happen, obviously.
That's the biggest compliment, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why choose cities around the U.S.?
Honestly, because I just want to go to a city at that point. So yeah, a lot of times the only criteria that I have when I'm picking a new city to go to is, do they have a podcasting community, whether it's already established or a blossoming podcasting community that we can add value to? And is it a cool city that I want to go visit?
Nice.
And that's it. Right. And yeah, we go. And obviously we've had a couple in LA. We've been to Salt Lake City, Austin, obviously, Denver. We had Columbus, Ohio on the list last year. But
right. Yes. I was hoping to go to that one.
Yeah. And now really I just kind of pick and choose wherever I want to be.
That's cool. And I there's a theme here. The two things to check is, how's it serving me and how's it going to serve everyone else? How am I serving the community? How am I serving myself? And then how am I serving those that want to show up? So it's like all of that needs to be considered. And I think if we go through life like that, most of us will be pretty happy.
Yeah. And when it comes to the business side of this, I'm very happy. I couldn't be happier. I get to work with cool people like you. I get to hang out with cool people, creatives. I feed off of the energy of our events and the relationships that I'm able to build because of our events and my own podcast. And so I couldn't have asked for anything, and it's paying my bills and then some, right? So
that's great.
Why not? And I'm going to continue to do this as long as I can. Obviously, COVID put a little bit of put us in the back burner for a little bit. Yeah, a little damper, but we're going to continue to push forward.
How does it an event business model work? If you don't mind me asking,
Not at all.
How that monetizes?
Yes.
Is it sponsors?
So sponsors and ticket sales are the biggest ones, but it's the sponsors are usually what the biggest portion of revenue. And then, I've kind of dabbled on and off. I get, not that I announce it from the stage or even talk about it very much, but I usually pick up consulting gigs from it. Me personally, they hire me to kind of help them with whatever they're looking for. And
cool.
I kind of do it for, sometimes as little as a week to a few months, depending on the project that I want to kind of take on.
And so is this with the brands or with the networking you do at the events?
Both.
Or both?
Yeah, both.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so, nice. It's one of those things that, again, I don't want to bring everybody in and say, okay, now who needs help with this? It's just organic conversations. And a lot of times I also, right, if I don't necessarily want to work with them, kind of like what you've done, I say, maybe that's not my area of expertise, or it's not going to work because of timing or whatever. But I know somebody that can help you, and I try to make those connections as well.
Yeah, that's what I try to do too. Is I don't want to leave people high and dry, but maybe we're not the right fit. So yeah, that's a great way to do it.
And it's a win-win.
And you're in an event, so you can pass people off
exactly
probably pretty easily.
It's fantastic.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So because we're virtual now, where do you think people might want to start communities? Where do you think is the best place to do that now?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? That's one we've struggled with. For us, we're trying to start them in person, right, and then kind of take them online. And we've done Slack communities, obviously Facebook communities, and things like that. And one that works well for us, but it isn't necessarily the best option. But it's something that I can control. Is we're able to build our email list, and it keeps growing and growing and growing, and that's the easiest way for me to kind of communicate with people. Facebook has its algorithms and things that don't work well, just like every other kind of platform,
social media platform
that we can use like that. And honestly, I'm not the best at it, and it's not something that I want to spend too much time on or learn to do and stuff. So we've kind of shifted a little bit from all the social media stuff to our email list, and it makes it harder for the community to kind of interact with each other. But as far as getting information out and building a community that way, email is still king for us. Yeah. Again, it's not the sexiest, but it's the most effective for us at this point. But we're still working a little bit on social media side of it as well.
Yeah, it's a struggle right now to figure out where to be. I mean, have you jumped on the Clubhouse train?
I'm on it and I listen, but I haven't played with it as much.
Same.
Have you?
Same. I've listened.
Yeah.
I got a little addicted to it for a couple weeks there.
It's a great platform. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. A guest we had on another show that I work with that I actually found on Clubhouse and scoped him out and asked him to join. And he said yes, because he was on Clubhouse saying yes to everything. So there's a networking trick, people. He was like, we call it crack house because everyone people are spending so much time on it each day, and you can meet anyone on it, meaning like people across the world. Elon Musk is on it, like people that you would never interact with are there.
So is this a fad? What do you think? Is this here to stay?
I think from the business perspective that it's going to sell and it's going to change. Yeah. And the way it's working now is going to change, because when it sells, then they're going to control all the crap that we just complained about algorithmically.
For sure. With
the other platforms. That's my prediction. So I think that's why people are just eating it up right now.
Yeah, it's still the Wild West when it comes to that, right? Yeah, and somebody is going to come in and buy it, and it's going to change, and it's going to be more corporate, and the algorithms are going to change, and yeah, that's what I'm always afraid of, right? One of the things that when I was on the logistics side, when I was starting my own business, I built my business on somebody else's platform, right? Somebody else's software. It wasn't my software, but I built it on somebody else, and then they kind of just tweaked a little bit of their terms and conditions, and it kind of wiped away 40% of my revenue because of that, right?
That's
and so from then I vowed never to let one thing, somebody else's platform kind of control my business. And so email is still the best for us, right? Because Facebook is going to change something and wipe out my community there, which is
you don't own it.
Yeah, and most of these other platforms, Clubhouse, I'm thinking, should I go all in and try to build a community there? But then what if it changes and I've wasted a lot of time and energy? And so I'm holding back, but I'm sure I'm going to jump on it here pretty soon.
We should do something.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're both newbies, so we'll just stumble through it together.
It'll be fine. And it's not too difficult to do. I mean, I think we can figure it out pretty quickly and have some fun with it.
I do want to test it out, and I think it would be fun to do it with someone like you ever.
Let's do it.
But yeah, I just want to really shine a light on what you just said about building something on someone else's platform. I hear this a lot, and it's the reason Vine crashed. If anyone's old enough to remember the app Vine, people like, what was her name? Brittany Furlan, I think is her name. And a whole bunch of people that had to shift they asked for money, and Vine crashed because they all walked because they wouldn't pay their artists. Yeah. So Vine died because of it. That's one way where everyone kind of lost. But, Facebook, like you said, the algorithm changes all the time. Instagram changes all the time. And, don't build your business on someone else's platform. Exactly. I just want to really
use
hone that in.
Use them, but still have your own home base, whatever that looks like, but still use Facebook and everything else as marketing and growing it. But yeah, it's dangerous. Yeah,
direct people to something that's yours. Like you said, the newsletter or some kind of email, that still is, from everyone I hear and everything I read, is still the best way to own your community. And own meaning you're not a slave to the algorithm. So
even after all these years, email is still working well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's interesting. That's the way to go. One thing, because I was listening to one of your podcast episodes that you guested on, and I believe it was Entrepreneur on Fire, which is a really fun one to listen to. That guy literally is on fire.
Yeah,
he's
he is
so good and
he's fast,
doing so well. Yeah. And he's like, boom, boom, boom. But you mentioned that you get distracted sometimes in what I call shiny object syndrome, which a lot of us as creative people have, and entrepreneurs, because we think in the realm of projects or containers of what I can do next. Is there anything right now that's catching your eye? Are you getting distracted?
I'm always getting distracted, right? I'm always looking at something else, but I've been trying to kind of close that off and focus on what I'm trying to do. And right now what I'm trying to do is continue to build the events side of the business. I feel like we've had a little bit of a year off because of COVID, but no, there's always something I'm looking at. Now, there's always businesses that I'm looking to invest in or buy, or, bring in partners and kind of just provide the resources and kind of let them run the day-to-day. Yeah, it's a little bit too distracting, to be honest.
Do you think that was an influence from COVID at all? Like, did the distractions increase because of the shift in how we work?
I think so. Yeah, for me anyway. Yeah, I had a little bit more. I pride myself in never working a 40-hour week, right? I mean, I obviously work less when it's not an event week, but I found myself kind of spending more time researching different things to kind of invest in or do on my own. But at the end of the day, luckily I haven't pulled the trigger just yet, but maybe soon. I don't know. And just back on the logistics side of it too, there's a lot of opportunities there to kind of jump on and projects to work on, but that have nothing to do with the media or event side of it. So I don't know.
So you've got some stuff brewing that you've been kind of watching or
always
having your eye
yes.
on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be really interested to kind of watch on the sidelines and see what comes to fruition then.
For sure. Yeah, me too. Nice. I'll see what we land on.
Very cool.
Yeah, but Outlier is never going to go away. I think no matter what I do, there's still going to always be a version of Outlier out there, whether it's online events or in-person events. Definitely the podcast, right? I'm not stopping that anytime soon, because I think I mentioned in our previous episode that even if nobody was listening or nobody was downloading my episodes, I would still do it just because of the value that I get personally with the guests that I have on, right? We usually build strong relationships with a lot of the guests that come on, and those are the people that I kind of invite to speak at my events. We work on different projects together.
So that's one way to leverage the podcast too, that you're using it for that reason, to continue the networking and create partnerships and things of that nature. And I know I work a lot with companies that want to start podcasts or small businesses, particularly. It's very popular amongst entrepreneurs to want to start a podcast, and that leveraging piece goes hand in hand. Can you share any other tips around how those two things might work well together?
Yeah, for brands or businesses, I think they need to do it, right? There's no real middleman when it comes to that, right? And so depending on what your business is, you're not going to get millions of downloads. Maybe you won't even get thousands of downloads, but you're going to get some downloads in your niche, right? I mean, let's
right.
A bike shop starts their own podcast, right? And they're going to have people that are interested in bikes and riding and all that stuff. They need to do it, because now that bike shop can build their brand around exactly who they're trying to sell to. And, it works well when the shop or whoever has something to say, and especially something new to say, or they want to educate their potential customers and clients. I think it's a no-brainer. Barrier of entry is low. The cost is low to start a podcast, right? Or you can hire a producer to kind of help you do it. But I think the upside is huge, right? I think that's where you build a loyal fan base, not just to the podcast, but to your brand, right? In this instance, to the shop. I think everybody should be doing it.
I agree. Thank you for framing it that way so concisely. Yeah, it just becomes an opportunity to have your audience hear your voice, learn who you are. It's a great trust. It's development of trust between you and your listener / potential partner, client, whatever it is you'd like, whoever you'd like to touch and connect with. So yeah, I mean, I love it. It's just so fun, and it's a fun way to do quote unquote branding or marketing or, storytelling. You get to be creative while you do it.
And you're working with these companies, right? What do they, when they start, what do you think, what are they looking for? And then I'm assuming as they get going, I'm assuming that shifts a little bit maybe of their expectation. What is that like?
Definitely depends on the client. There's people who want a personal brand and they kind of get the long haul a little bit better because they're not trying to meet what's the word I'm looking for? Like a specific expectation around monetization or some other thing that feels more like a hard, just piece of success, let's say. For smaller businesses, I think they don't realize often how hard it's going to be, that it's going to take a lot of their attention at the beginning, and then it's a weekly thing. So it's like adding this part-time job to your week that maybe you didn't expect would require, X, Y, and Z, because it takes a lot to make content good and not just, jumping on. And there's a lot of skills. I think the barriers sometimes are like learning what the skills are that they have or don't have. And it's also great because they learn skills they have that they didn't know they have. And they're like good at things they didn't realize they were great at, or, there's definitely both. So the experience is interesting. There's learning curves that are different for everyone, and there are successes that are measured different. But I think it's a little bit of a wake-up call at first.
I bet.
And then if they love it, I have people sign on for at least 10 episodes so they can have an actual process to reflect on, and some content, some analytics too, that they can look at. So, if let's say they're doing a weekly podcast, that's 2.5 months of releases, let's say, if they're doing it once a week, and then they can kind of like take a moment and be like, do I love this or do I hate this? Am I good at this? Do I want to keep going? Is it working? Are people listening? Like, whatever it is that they want to reflect on, and I guide them in that as well. But then it kind of ends up being, I'm learning so much about what I'm good at, or, they develop personal skills,
Sure.
like how to talk is in this way. It's not something we normally do. We do it now because everyone's on Zoom and things are more presentational. So it's an interesting thing. And the connections too, like meeting people they normally wouldn't meet, and all of that.
Are you doing a lot of hand holding?
Yes.
Yeah. But that's something you're good at. I mean, it's showing somebody the process and kind of showing them the benefits of that. I mean, it seems to come natural to you, I'm assuming.
I thank you for saying that. I do think that comes natural, almost to a fault sometimes. Oh, really? Meaning I will spend too much time with someone realizing like this isn't beneficial to keep it at this level. It can become a little too intensive for my time, and probably for some of theirs, depending on the client, but we've gotten better at that over the years. Good. Over the years of doing this, it's gotten a little more, there's a system now, and I like that part actually quite a bit. And as long as I'm not having to do all of the post-production too and everything, then I can kind of balance the two sides of that process. So now there's people that do that, which is great.
Yeah, but it's huge, right? Having a producer, someone like you that can kind of walk them through the process and then show them, because a lot of times they go in there and they don't know what the goal is even. They don't know what they want out of this, and having somebody there kind of craft it for them can be huge, obviously.
Thank you. Yeah, we do start there. It is a lot about understanding goals and understanding mission and message and things they may have never thought of regarding their own business. So it's really getting to the core of why we're doing this, and what you were saying about how you decide where to go, even for an event. It's like, what do I want out of this? Meaning the person who I'm working with, what do they want? What will feel like success, and what's the first goal, so that we can focus on that for these 10 episodes versus, and then it should change. There should be small goals and there should be a big goal, and et cetera. But it's a whole like, and everyone learns differently. So it's kind of figuring out, what's going to sit with that person.
Yeah. That's the hardest part for me, right? The hand holding for the most part, the training, right? That's not one of my I mean, I can do it, and I like to think that I can do it well. Sometimes I don't have the patience for it, right? That's when I bring people in to kind of help with the details of the whole thing. I'm more of the big picture guy, and then bring in people to kind of help with the details and the actual training part of it. But that's what you do well, right?
Yeah, I have a passion for that. I like to watch people go through that shift. It's really rewarding. It's really rewarding to cheer someone on and to talk to someone in a way that maybe they're not used to thinking of themselves that positively, which surprisingly enough, like we aren't very nice to ourselves as a general statement. Not everyone is this way, but most of us experience a lot of that. Sure. And so it feels really nice to be able to like just hold someone up in that way and guide them through something new in a very safe space, and watch people kind of blossom, and create something. I love creating. So They have a reward right there in the product. So it's a rewarding experience.
Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. Well, Everett, do you have a tip, like one last tip you can give to someone who's just starting out or thinking about jumping into their first venture?
Yeah, I'll go on the podcasting side. Don't worry about downloads. Don't worry about selling sponsorships. Don't worry about all of that stuff. Do something that you enjoy and try to do it as best as you can. And, if you're not embarrassed about your first episode, 6 months from now, then, you're not taking enough chances, right? Or you're not progressing, because it's going to suck the first time, I think, unless, it's well produced with, unless you hire the right people. But if you're doing it yourself, it's not going to be the best, but you need to start off somewhere. All I would say is, if you're going to do it, go all in and take chances, but don't worry about downloads. Don't worry about selling sponsorships. That will come if you can kind of make it happen, but it's not going to be there day one.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Agreed.
We have so many people, right? That's one of the first things I always get at our events or when I'm talking to people. How do I make money? I'm like, off of the podcast. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Well, I haven't started yet, but I want to make money day one. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen usually.
Yes. And that's where if we can't shift in that initial mindset, then it's very hard to get started because we won't be focusing on the content. We won't be focusing on what you're making and on your voice and on who you are and who you want to serve. We're more focused on how am I going to quit my job and live off of this podcast.
Sure. And there are people that have been able to do that, but it's a lot of work and it takes a little bit of time.
Right. It's that, you got to keep showing up.
Yep,
you got to keep showing up for the process.
That's right. What do they call it? Podcast fade, right? Where
pod fade.
Yeah. They're 6-7 episodes in and they're not seeing the results that they want. So that's it. They're out.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to put a little bit more skin in the game if you want it to succeed.
Yeah. If you want this to work, specifically podcasting, whatever it is that you choose, then you have to keep trying.
Yeah.
But if you realize that it's not for you, then that's a good reason to walk away. It has to feel right. Well, thank you, Ever.
This was fun. Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Me too. Thank you for listening to Be Bold Begin. We hope that these episodes are helping inspire and empower you to take your next steps towards whatever you're thinking of creating. And if starting a podcast is what you're thinking of creating, then I would love to have you in my brand new private Facebook group, Unleash Your Podcast Niche, a podcast learning community for the aspiring podcaster who cares about creating an authentic message and making an impact with podcasting. Join us for live opportunities with me and meet other creatives like you who are at the same stage. There's a link in the show notes to join us. Happy creating.